In a year that already feels heavier than it should, the soil of our planet has begun to whisper again. Humanity comforts itself with the illusion that the age of great discoveries is over, that the Earth has surrendered its last secrets, that history is finally stable. But the ground disagrees. It stirs, it rewrites, it connects distant eras with threads we were never meant to trace. And tonight, we will descend into 7 revelations that crack open the familiar world, 7 findings whose very existence challenges the official map of human knowledge. These are not just artifacts, they are warnings carried across centuries, insisting that our story was never complete. In 2022, inside a sealed crypt beneath the ruined monastery of San Pietro in southern Italy, dated securely to the early Middle Ages, archaeologists moved through their routine cataloging of 7th century debris when a small, dirt-packed metal lump slipped from a fractured sarcophagus corner. At first, they logged it as a corroded pilgrim token, nothing more. But when the conservator brushed away the lime dust, the team fell silent. The object was a miniature steel gear assembly with interlocking teeth machined to 20th century tolerances, yet the surrounding burial layer was radiocarbon confirmed at 670 AD. Skeptics argued contamination, a modern drop-in, until the metallurgical scans revealed uniform centuries-old oxidation, impossible to fake. If this is merely a misplaced trinket, then it is the most flawless accidental machine conceived 1,300 years before its time. In the summer of 2019, deep within a collapsed chamber beneath the pre-Columbian fortress of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, researchers clearing a routine seismic shaft uncovered a stone block that seemed no different from the others scattered through the debris of the 9th century. It was only when a worker's chisel cracked off a thin outer crust that the team froze. Beneath the weathered surface lay a perfectly smooth panel of black, glass-like material etched with geometric circuits that mirrored modern microchip layouts. The chamber had been sealed since the Wari decline, proven by pollen trapped in the sediment layer. Yet the embedded patterns matched photolithographic designs developed in the 1970 seconds. Dismissals of hoax fell apart when spectroscopy showed the crystalline panel had aged uniformly for over a millennium. If this is just decorative carving, then it is the most precise accidental circuit ever crafted, 1,000 years before its supposed invention. In 2021, during a controlled descent into the flooded Bronze Age mine at Hallstatt, Austria, a diver archaeologist spotted what he assumed was a collapsed wooden support buried in silt from the 12th century BC. Routine, boring, exactly what field reports are full of. But when the beam was lifted to the surface tank and the mud dissolved, the team slipped into a stunned stillness. The beam was a hollow tube of laminated wood, fibers arranged in a spiral pattern identical to modern high-pressure cable casings, complete with internal grooves that matched contemporary insulation channels. Dendrochronology confirmed the timber was nearly 3,000 years old, and the mine's tunnels had remained undisturbed since antiquity. Claims of a planted forgery failed instantly. Every microfracture, every layer of mineralization aligned with ancient flooding cycles. If this is merely structural carpentry, then it is the most advanced accidental conduit ever crafted millennia before its time. In early 2020, while excavating a sealed chamber beneath the Kushite necropolis at Meroe in Sudan, researchers were documenting what they assumed was a typical offering niche from the 3rd century BC. The sand-packed corner held a small clay vessel, unimpressive enough that no one paid attention as it was lifted toward the light. But when the jar cracked along an ancient fault line, the room fell into a sudden, breathless pause. Inside lay a slender bronze rod tipped with a perfectly aligned coil of silver wire, its loops wound with the uniform spacing found in modern electromagnetic induction tools. The surrounding plaster bore untouched ceiling impressions from Queen Amenhotep's reign, proving no later intrusion. Metallurgy showed natural patina consistent with 2 millennia of oxidation. Skeptics tried to call it ritual jewelry, until microanalysis revealed traces of magnetized hematite along the coil's axis. If this is only an ornament, then it is the most impossibly functional charm ever fashioned centuries before its principle existed. In 2018, beneath the frozen strata of a collapsed Viking boathouse on the island of Vestvågøy, Norway, a research team clearing compacted 10th century debris uncovered what looked like a warped iron brooch fused to driftwood. No one cared. Viking sites are full of corroded trinkets. But once the artifact was isolated and the salt crust removed, the one lab fell into that strange, airless silence that only comes when reality glitches. The brooch was a circular iron plate engraved with concentric calibration marks, identical to modern azimuth dials, and its center held a pivoted needle of tempered steel, still faintly magnetized. The layer was sealed by a roof collapse dated through dendrochronology to 912 AD, leaving no chance of later contamination. Attempts to dismiss it as luck failed when fractography showed the needle had been intentionally hardened using a technique unknown in medieval Scandinavia. If this is merely decorative metalwork, then it is the most uncannily precise compass created 5 centuries before its time. In 2020, deep within an untouched burial tunnel beneath the Indus Valley ruins of Dolavira, a survey team mapping collapsed corridors located what they assumed was a broken terracotta figurine embedded in a compacted stratum dated to 1800 BC. The object was coated in hardened silt, bland enough that no one bothered to photograph it twice. But the moment ultrasonic cleaning exposed the surface, every researcher in the room went still. Beneath the clay shell lay a palm-sized quartz plate, etched with a lattice of straight, perfectly parallel channels, identical to modern fiber optic guides, each groove polished to sub-millimeter precision. Stratigraphy proved the tunnel had been sealed since antiquity, and thermal luminescence confirmed the quartz had not been heated in thousands of years. Claims of coincidence disintegrated when spectroscopy detected trace light-scattering residue along the grooves. If this is a simple ornament, then it is the most impossibly accurate light conduit crafted 2 millennia before its concept existed. In late 2022, during restoration work in a sealed Byzantine cistern beneath the old quarter of Trabzon, Turkey, archaeologists clearing 11th century sediment uncovered what looked like a waterlogged wooden tablet wedged between fallen bricks. Routine find, nothing heroic. But when the conservator peeled back the decayed surface, the team locked into a stunned silence. The tablet held a thin copper sheet engraved with a dense grid of intersecting lines, matching the architecture of modern printed circuit boards with unnerving precision. The cistern's access shaft had been sealed since a documented collapse in 1083, confirmed by mortar analysis and historical records. Critics pushed theories of intrusion until corrosion mapping showed the copper's oxidation layers aligned perfectly with 9 centuries of moisture cycles. Residual traces of carbonized resin clung to several junction points, exactly where solder would be today. If this is merely decorative geometry, then it is the most flawlessly engineered coincidence crafted 900 years ahead of its supposed age.